Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Ohio Small Business Spotlight. I'm one of your hosts, Tony Miltenberger, here with my dear friend Greg Fay, where every single week we do our very best to help all of you learn more about small businesses in our community because we believe that at the heart of every community is strong small businesses. Greg, why don't you tell the family who we got on the podcast today?
I love this woman right here. I love her with all my heart, and I love her. I love what she does. And so many small business owners are going to see today not only the incredible story that Kris Horlacher has built with Shoes for Shoeless. You're not only going to learn that, and that could be just a podcast by itself, but you're going to learn the logistics, the relationships, and how she like Tony said, how she activated a community to jump in when COVID took place. And just the way she does it is special. And I'm so happy to have you here today, Kris.
Thank you. I am very excited because I'm a talker. So let's go.
All right, Kris, let me come out of the box
Yeah.
swinging. Um, One of the things that's always interesting when we talk to small business and movement leaders is the idea of getting started, right? What was the nudge? What threw you over the top? How did you know that you were like, hey, I think I may have something here that could positively change the community and it could be a need that can be met? Tell us the story on how you launched this incredible organization.
Yeah. This is one of my favorite stories to tell. I'm going to tell you the abbreviated version because we only have 20 minutes. It's a very long, complicated story. Here's the short version. I'm a nurse. Before I did this, I worked in the trauma center at Miami Valley Hospital for a very long time. Loved that job, which very well prepared me for this job, believe it or not. I was in 2007 or 8 found myself as a volunteer running a mentoring program for homeless kids. I was working with St. Vincent's because they asked me to. So, as a volunteer, I took some junior high, high school kids who were my kids, some college students from UD through an organization called Young Life that I was also a volunteer with. And we started a mentoring program, mentoring and tutoring for 17 children who were homeless and had been transitioned into transitional housing in Kettering. That's where I was when I saw the need for shoes and socks, which was a need I personally never experienced. I never knew anybody that experienced, actually, I knew nothing about it. It had never crossed my mind. And I was there with those kids 5 days a week after school for 3 years before I noticed that need. So when people say to me, I had no idea that need exists, I didn't either. I totally understand that. Even though the university students would say to me, Hey, Kris, did you notice she needs shoes? Did you notice what he's wearing? A million other things would get in the way of me addressing that need because their needs were drowning. You would drown in those kids' needs. And it just never made it to my list. It took 3 years. And it only is because God stopped me in my tracks,
Hmm.
truly, to stop and look at something that was right in front of me. I don't think I would have otherwise. I was, we were getting ready for Christmas on campus. We always took those students to the big event at UD, and they make a wish list of what they would want for Christmas. My daughter, who was in junior high, was writing the list for a boy, and I looked over and saw that she'd written shoes. That was his number one request. Um, that day, it still didn't get my attention until a few days later. It was like a supernatural reliving, and the word shoes, boom, was right in my mind. I thought, okay, I better take a look at that. So I just thought, let's just get all these kids a brand new pair of gym shoes. That's easy. 17 of them. So I just thought I'll just do a quick little fundraiser. So I threw it out there to some people. Hey, let's raise some money. Let's buy 17 kids a pair of gym shoes.
Hmm.
Someone who I didn't really know, who knew Paul, friends with Paul Isaacs, Greg, Jennifer Nangle. She said, "Hey, I'm friends with Isaacs. I see that you're doing this. Can I help you?" She lived in Centerville. I said, "Yeah, raise enough money to buy 17 kids gym shoes." She goes, "I don't know if I can raise that much." I said, "No, you can." This was December. People are very generous in December. But here's what I said that was kind of silly. I said, just have a bake sale or something. Raise some money. It was December. I said, raise some money. She goes, I'll try. She raised way more than enough, called me. I said, great. We'll just run out and get these kids some gym shoes. We had money left over. And she said, I better give that money back to the people. I said, no, hang on, hang on. Let's find some more kids. There's got to be more. And let's just buy more gym shoes for more kids. She said, that'd be great. But, you know, you got to kind of do it fast. I said, okay. So I started calling around organizations that deal with children in poverty and said, I've got some money left over. What do you have any kids you know need shoes? And here's what everybody said. We probably do, but we never pay attention to that.
Hmm.
So I was striking out with organizations serving children in poverty. So I thought, I'm a nurse. I'm just going to reach out to nurses. So I called the head nurse of Dayton City Schools and said, I've got some money left over. Here's what I want to do with it. Do you have kids who need shoes? And she just was, excuse me, blown away with the question number one. But her answer got my attention because she said, you have no idea how many kids we have who need shoes.
Wow.
I've been head of this department for years and years. It's an ongoing need. I said, well, how do you fix it? She goes, we really don't because we can't. My teachers are already buying kids clothes, food. My nurses are already buying school supplies, everything. There just isn't enough. I said, all right, how many kids do you think in Dayton? She goes, I can't guess because I wouldn't know, but I would guess at least 4,000. Again, sheer naive me said, that's not that many kids. I don't have that much money right now, but I can probably find it. And she said, God bless you, Kris, if you can do this because it's a big need that has never been met for these kids. Now, that to me was still right here in my brain. Thought, I can do this. It was right here. So I just started calling. I made one more phone call to a person running a social service agency and said to her, I'm a nurse thinking about this need for just gym shoes and socks for kids. What do you know about it? And she started crying.
Mm.
And I didn't know her. I was driving down 35. I pulled over. I pulled over on the most dangerous place you can pull over, on the highway. I did it anyway because I knew I should. I pulled over and I said, why are you crying? She goes, yesterday a boy, his mom and sisters walked into my office looking for, they'd been evicted. They had no place to go. They hadn't eaten in a while except at school. And he was limping when he came into my office. And she did all the things she needed to do to find them housing for the night. But she grew up in poverty. She knew what he needed. She knew what was wrong. I would have thought he sprained his ankle or some such thing. He was trying out for the freshman basketball team at Northridge with her son. She knew them personally. So she got up, she walked around, she knelt in front of him and said, take off your shoes. And he said, no, I'm fine. She said, no, take them off. He said, no, I'm fine. She goes, take them off. He took them off. Socks are full of blood. Toes had grown on top of each other. His feet were just open wounds. He was trying out for a very competitive basketball team. In shoes, he had a size 12 men's on. Needed a 15. Here's where God took something that was in my brain to my heart, because that's where it had to be for me to do what he was going to want me to do. It had to be heart driven. My son wears a size 15 shoe. When Keela said he was wearing a 12, he needed a 15. His feet were permanently damaged, by the way. When your toes grow on top of each other, they're like that forever.
Wow.
I started crying because I felt that in my mother heart. I thought, oh gosh, here's what I didn't think. I didn't think, what would I do if that was my kid? I didn't think, how does he feel? I felt, that's my son. I can only explain it to you in that way. God moved it from my head into my heart. He was my son in that moment. And I said, I can still barely tell you this without crying. That was 2010. And I said, all right, I'm going to do this. Going to find a way to help these kids in our area. And she said, God bless you, Kris, when you do, because somebody has to. So, sorry. I knew then that I was going to. I didn't know how. No idea how. I was coming from healthcare in a nonprofit land, which is a totally foreign land to me, which is a business land. So I gathered my kids who were in junior high and high school, some college kids, and I said, we're going to do this, guys. And then I put together a board of very smart people, very smart in law, business, finance, etc., and said, this is what we're going to do. And everybody said, let's go. Went out and bought a book called Nonprofits for Dummies, read like the first 2 pages in it and thought, I hate this book. I can't even get this, and threw it in the trash and thought, there's a different way for me to learn this. I asked University of Dayton marketing department students who were looking for a grad school project to help me research the country because I figured somebody else is doing this. Let's research the country. I don't want to invent the wheel. Ultimately, we had to invent the wheel because what I found was while there are some organizations through our country meeting this need for children, it only took me once to make this mistake. I saw one that looked great on their website and all of their things looked like they were doing it well and it made sense. So I thought, that's how I'm going to do it. So I had that little bit of money left over. So I reached out to another nurse in Dayton and said, experiment with me. I've got X amount of dollars left over. How many kids do you have who desperately need a new pair of gym shoes and socks? She goes, more than I can count. I said, who is your most urgent? Gather their shoe sizes. Tell me what they are. I'm going to buy their shoes and bring them to you. And she said, great. That's what happened. It was 100% failure. That's how the other organization was doing it. Reporting great success, which I know was not true. That was not possible. It was wrong. They're not being honest about that. So she called me. We got the shoes. We used that money, got the shoes, delivered them out to Meadowdale Middle School or elementary, whatever it's called at that time. None of them fit. None. So she called me and said, none of these come even close. I said, all right, how'd you get their sizes? She goes, I didn't really know how so I asked them what sizes they wear. They don't know. I called home. They didn't know. And sometimes they just purposely gave a different size for somebody else, or she estimated. None of that works.
Wow.
So I said, I'm going to come and get them. We're going to think of a way to measure feet. Because you just think about it. And looking back 15 years later, why did I not know that from the beginning? Because I didn't know. That's just why. I didn't know. So I sat around my kitchen table with some college kids and said, we have to measure feet. Figure out a way. Of course they did. It took them 2 seconds. It's what we still use today, Greg. We made our own measuring device. I took that back out to the nurse and said, measure their feet this time. 50% better, 50% success, but still a 50% failure. The goal is 100%, right? These kids have to have shoes that fit, or you're wasting your time and money. They have to fit. Why did it not work? Measuring their feet. Here's what I learned. Some kids have wide feet. Some kids have narrow feet. Sometimes you measure and it's still not even close. I can't explain that. It's branding of shoes. That's when I realized that didn't work. We got to take a team into schools and measure ourselves. That's just the only way we're going to do it. We had no money, no inventory, and no idea how to get either of those things. The shoes we are right now, we were just paying for. I was just paying for them and getting my friends to give me some money. This all happened within about 2 weeks. By week 3, word got out and my inbox was, I've never gotten so many emails in my whole life up to that point. They were school nurses. They were schools. We heard you're doing this. Help us, please. Help us next. Please, please, please. No money, no people, just figuring out how in the world to do it. That's 2010. This is 2025, 200,000+ children later, 21 counties throughout Ohio, 600 to 700 volunteers per month to reach 21,000+ children per year. We fill Madison Square Garden, the equivalent of that. The seating in Madison Square Garden is what we do, one child at a time. I had 50 volunteers with me today at Dayton Public. 248 children got shoes. We set up a shoe store. We have big trucks now. We transport 2,000 pairs of shoes, hundreds of thousands of pairs of socks, set it up in a gym. We're just like a shoe store now. I train you when you come. Here's how you measure feet. Here's how you do everything. We do it. Boom. Hour and a half, 238 kids got brand new gym shoes today.
It's wild.
It is very wild.
My question.
I felt like for 15 years, I have felt like a spectator, just an outsider looking in at a magnificent movement of the Lord who cares about this for kids. Cared about enough to move a story that I didn't know existed into my heart to do it. It's hard to explain.
Well, let me ask you this right here, because it seems like you accomplished, and I know 15 years is a long time, But a lot of people look at this and they say, okay, if this organization can do this, there has to be some things that they've done that another organization can do, like yours, another nonprofit, or a business owner out there saying, how did she catalyze
Yeah.
that many people, a army of volunteers? How did you grow that? How did you catalyze it? How did you come up with the process? How did you do that? How did you develop all of those relationships? Because those are life skills, they're business skills, they're
Mhm.
skills that have grown your nonprofit. How did you do that right there? You had that in your heart. The first 2 weeks gave you the baseline of your story. What was next? What were the steps that you used to activate all that?
Yeah. Um, this is the first year since 2010. I've really had a lot of time to think about that very question because it has been a sprint. It has been a sprint. I have sprinted a marathon since 2010. I now have a staff of 5, which has given me time to think about those kind of questions, and it just blows my mind. I came with a skill set. I came with no nonprofit experience, none. I came with no history of this need. I came with none of what you would think I needed. But here's what I came with. God put a story in my heart. I came with enough confidence in the Lord to not be afraid of what I didn't know. I came with enough understanding that I didn't know. I will ask anybody for help about anything, anytime. That exists today. Um, if I don't know something, I'm going to ask you if I think you know. If you say to me, "You're so wrong about that," I want I want you to tell me why. I do not get offended by any criticism. None. I come on, bring it, because I need to know so much. I'm still on a steep learning curve. I capitalized on a professional background of healthcare assessment. I capitalized on a healthcare professional background of steadiness. You can't intimidate me. You can't scare me. Nothing I see surprises or shocks me if that's human behavior or what I see on kids' feet, which would make you cry. None of that. I'm very steady. Um, I'm full of confidence in the Lord. I'm full of energy. Those are skill sets that I bring. I'm very good at critical thinking. I started with a goal, an end goal of shoes and socks that fit kids and are fit to wear. They needed to be gym shoes because you want kids active.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to get to that goal, but I didn't need to know how to get there yet. I needed to be able to see where I was going. Where I was going was never perfection because it's impossible. Where I was heading was excellence. I always wanted to be excellent. We are excellent. I had to
Kris, let me
trust.
ask you this, Kris.
Yeah,
I know that there are a lot of business leaders who are listening right now who want to bring more of that community element into their
yeah,
business.
yeah,
And one of the unique things about what you've created
yeah.
is that it's really one of those kind of, it's a very rare opportunity for people to come in, do impactful work, and
Yes.
then go, carry on with their day, right? Like you said today, over 200 pairs of shoes, 50 volunteers all got to do something that probably had a profound impact on their life.
No question about it.
And so talk to me for just a second about we were talking before we hit record that sometimes you get a bad rep for being a drill sergeant,
I
or it's kind of no nonsense.
Yes.
How important are boundaries and
Very,
vision to
very.
bringing in multiple people to being a part of something bigger than what they can understand?
You won't make it without that. If I didn't have, if I wasn't very directive, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. If I wasn't a disciplined leader on setting boundaries, it wouldn't work. I have to manage 600 to 700 community volunteers per month,
Mm,
coming to places some of them are afraid to come,
mm,
neighborhoods where some of them would never drive. Um, they are afraid to drive. They're afraid when they get there. They're afraid of what's going to happen. They're afraid of everything. I have to be able to deal with all of that with confidence and direction, tell you exactly what to do and how to do it because the process is so important. We have to run through sometimes 400 kids in an hour and a half. spending as much time with each kid as it takes, which is 10 to 15, in as short a time as possible. Without direction, it doesn't happen. You've got to have a vision, and you've got to have boundaries, and you've got to have the personality to expect. Make your expectations very clear. And volunteers appreciate that because they're nervous anyway when they come. They appreciate me saying, here's exactly what you do, here's what you say, here's what your body language is, here's what you don't do.
Well, you said a couple things that it's so funny. Running an organization like you run, what business owners are going to hear, they're number one going to be in awe of the mission, but what they hear is excellence.
Yeah.
And I've been on site before, and it is excellence. And volunteers, Tony talked about, why would a volunteer want to come to the places that you talked about and do some of the uncomfortable things that you do? Yet, when you show up at a Shoes for Shoeless event where you're going to put 200, 300, 400 pairs of shoes on, a volunteer shows up and they may be there collectively for maybe 2.5 hours, but there is no wasted time. I mean, it's a turnkey operation where literally you show up, like Tony said, you make a difference. The difference is so obvious. You might have got bossed around a little bit,
You did.
but you have so much confidence in the process that you've developed that as soon as they begin to play along, they recognize, oh my gosh, this is why she does. And then just the talk afterward about the impact that people had, people's hearts, you drag their heart into it, then they've already had their heart exposed when they're doing this right there. How important is it, those talks that you give afterward, maybe getting them a second to look in the rearview mirror to see what they did and have that feeling of, I see exactly why she does this right here. Confidence, excellence. I feel so good about what I did. How did the end speech kind of develop? Because I know that I've seen a couple different versions of it, and it makes everybody feel so good. What do you feel is important in that?
Yeah, so I call that our pre and post game. The pre game is where I just tell you how to do it. But it's not just how to measure feet, it's how to talk to a child, it's how to touch a child, it's how not to touch a child, it's how to make eye contact, it's how to do shoulder to shoulder eye contact. It's communication. COVID ruined people. I've just watched it happen. COVID made people afraid to get close to people, afraid to talk to people, afraid you're going to die. We're all going to die right now. That's what COVID put in our brains. We overcome that. I tell you, when you talk to a child, you're down on your knees in front of them. You are shoulder to shoulder, eye to eye. That's body language communication 101. You talk in a voice that they can hear you. Your voice is confident, fun, and engaging. I tell you how to hold a child's hand, how not to if they don't want you to. We go through all of that. Then we do it. Then the post game part, all the kids are gone. We're done. One of the most important things we do, here's why. We're in a culture that's so fast paced. Processing information is kind of a lost art. We read quickly, we bullet point everything, we skim, skim, skim. We don't think deeply about anything. So we miss out on the transformative power of deep thought. So we take a few minutes at the end and I bring some people up. I say, who can process this information with us right now? Because if you don't, you will walk out of here not changed. The change that's in you right now goes away when you walk out. If we process it together, you will permanently be changed. Because, guys, empathy, that's what this is about. I started following the research on empathy several years ago, and what it showed was if you are under 30 right now, 30 years old, if you have empathy, you're unusual. Because many, many things have piled into the culture, making empathy almost gone. Empathy is controlled in our brain. There's a piece in our brain that controls empathy. You think it's your heart. It's not. It's your brain. It's like a muscle. You have to grow the muscle of empathy to have it. Then, if it's modeled in your home, you're great. You still might not have very much. Look around our culture. You'll see example, example, example. The big brawl in Cincinnati recently, where one person called 911 and hundreds of people videotaped it. No empathy, none. They didn't care what was happening. they liked it because they wanted to videotape it and get likes on their social media. That's how genocide can happen in a cult. You can kill your neighbors. You don't have any empathy. It's very distressing information. And then I came upon a remedy for it. Eye to eye service. Eye to eye service makes that part of your brain fire the chemicals needed to develop that empathy muscle. So I thought, I've got nothing but eye to eye service. I'm going to bring in um, people under 30. I started a program called Kids for Kids, kids serving kids. It is a fun, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students will serve with us, but at any age you can grow in empathy. So our post game is all about, let's work that muscle of empathy and let's grow it by processing and thinking about what we just did, because you already had the eye to eye. It is the most important thing we do next to putting the shoes and socks on the kids. It is one of my favorite parts. I could tell you 1,000 stories about that, but it's a big piece of what we do.
I love it so much. We're up against time, Kris. We knew we would be with this conversation. Normally, we would ask someone to do give us 3 recommendations for groups to have on the podcast. But today, I want to do something a little different. For our closing segment, I want you, because I believe that you're a tremendous communicator, you're a motivator, you're direct, you're to the point, you just remind me of my mom so much. It's the nursing thing. And I mean that in the highest compliment I can give someone.
Thank you.
So let me just ask you to do this. I want you to give a 2-minute message to the entrepreneur who's listening right now, who's thinking about starting the next thing in their life. Maybe it's the thing that could change people's lives. Maybe it's the thing that could put, the next version of Shoe for the Shoeless, the next version of how we change communities, the next version of a food bank, the next version of a business. Tell them, get them motivated, get them fired up. Why is right now the time for them to start?
First of all, I would say call me, and we'll have a long conversation about that before you start. The right time to start is when the Lord calls you to start. I started in a recession, 2010. Everyone said, "Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it." The Lord had asked me to do it, so I didn't care about the recession. The right time to start is when you feel like the Lord is asking you to start. You have to have the right tools. You have to have a vision for it. You do not have to have the answers on how those will come, but you have to know what is your end result. My end result was kids get shoes that fit and are fit to wear that they like, that fit them. That was the end result. I had the end before I had the middle and the beginning. So the steps can come last.
That's so good. Greg, closing thoughts?
I tell you what, I just want to echo what she said. I think fear paralyzes a lot of people, and Kris has laid out on at least 3 occasions during this short conversation that you can get started with not knowing all the answers.
Oh gosh, yes.
If you have a passion about what you're doing, you can get started without all of the answers laid out, as long as you have the vision. She nailed communication. She talked about process. These are all things that are critical to any organization. This was a gem of an episode right here. We are so blessed to have you. Tony, take us home.
Well, friends, that's our episode for today. As always, we're incredibly thankful for you, the executive, the entrepreneur, the small business owner, the person who's making a difference in every single community. Thank you for being a part of Southwest Ohio. Thank you for what you do to build safer streets and better communities. So until next week, we invite you to hit that subscribe button, share this episode with a friend, and reach out to Shoes for the Shoeless. They could use your support.
Yes.
Now is the time. If you're a small business and you want to get involved, take your whole team, shut the doors, and watch what it does to your culture. When we give back, everything improves. Abundance mindset makes a huge difference. You can't outgive a good God. So until next week, for Greg and for me and for Kris,